We have the commissioner of baseball on our phone lines, our hotline right now, Mr. Bud Selig. Let's welcome the commissioner. Bud, how you doing today?
I'm good, guys. Nice to be with both of you.
Thank you. Bud, I guess you got some sleepless nights ahead of you here of late with all these contracts being thrown around in Major League Baseball.
Well, I've had some sleepless nights, frankly, in the last couple of weeks, and I have some ahead of me. You're right on both counts. There's no question about that. It's, I've said I was in front of Senator DeWine, as a matter of fact, from Ohio last month in a hearing, and I also been back to talk to the National Press Club and the Economic Club of Chicago and a whole series of other places, and I said that there's no question that disparity is the greatest problem that we have, and that we're in the midst of this really wonderful, incredible renaissance of baseball. The game itself has never been more popular. We drew over 73 million people. Your city is a perfect example of how popular the game is, but underneath, there's no question we have to solve our internal problems. And the only thing that can impede this renaissance is, quite candidly, our inability to solve these problems. And I'm spending all of my time, as you know, last January 19th, the clubs gave me a great deal of authority. And I can tell you these problems will get solved. They're going to be difficult. The contracts of the past week haven't been helpful, and I know have stunned a lot of people. But what they dramatically point out is the serious problem that we have.
Commissioner, are the owners their own worst enemies? I mean, because no one's putting a gun to their head. This is what the calls keep telling me, Mike. Why are the owners doing this? I mean,
well, that's a good point, Mike. I was an owner, as you both know, for almost 30 years.
Right.
And it's really been a great training ground for the commissioner's job, and I have a different view of life and a different perspective. Let me suggest something to you about that. I mean, the answer to that question in many ways is yes, although I think the system is so badly flawed and has been flawed for so long that it's a little more complex than that. But let me suggest to you that 22 or 23 of the clubs have sat by quietly the last month, haven't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're back down to the same 5, 6, or 7. I know the Indians, for instance, under John Hart and certainly under Larry Dolan's ownership, have tried to be very, very responsible. And yet you guys have a wonderful club there. There's got to be a point of reasonableness here. And people don't understand. Look, we had 20-plus clubs that lost money last year, and I mean lost money. You keep hearing, well, they have different sets of books, and that's all nonsense. That just isn't true. It's completely irrational. We have clubs that are losing money. We have a disparity problem. After all, when you have a difference in revenue of $175 million between top and bottom, you have a problem. After all, the top club or two, their gross revenue is more than the bottom 6 clubs combined. And, the other argument you're going to hear often in my Blue Ribbon Committee of Paul Volcker and George Mitchell, Senator Mitchell and George Will and Rick Levin, the president of Yale University, came up with a lot of really fascinating facts. But of the last 189 playoff games, we divide teams up into quartiles. Only 3 of these games have been won by teams in the 3rd and 4th quartile, and they were gone quickly, and no team out of the top quartile has played in the World Series or won a World Series game in the last 6 years. So we have a great game. It's to me, obviously I'm partial, but it's the best game in the world. But we need to solve our internal problems.
We're talking with the commissioner of baseball, Bud Selig. And Bud, have you talked with the owner of Texas, Tom Hicks, since he gave $252 million to A-Rod?
I have. The answer is I have. As a matter of fact, he was calling me on the phone when I started my conversation with you guys. So as soon as I'm done, I'm going to talk to him.
Oh, okay. So are you going to? Can you give us a little information? You're going to scold him? You're going to say, "What are you doing, Mr. Hicks?"
Whatever I say to owners, I have to stay between us. But yes, he and I have had lots of conversations. I mean, a lot of conversations.
Were you disappointed when you heard the contract?
Well, I don't want to get into my own personal feelings. I said here yesterday, having been an owner and having been in this game all my adult life, I'm never really startled at anything. But my own private feelings are this. Look, I feel this. I guess let me try to answer it a different way. When you sit in the commissioner's chair, or even as an owner, one of the things you must feel, I believe, I was taught this many years ago by old-time owners who really understood this beautifully. You got to care about the game, and you can't damage the game. You have that responsibility, and therefore, the more reasonable, responsible you can be, the better off the game is going to be, and that's critically important. And therefore, after all, what do I worry about now? I worry about affordability of ticket prices. I worry about new stadiums. I worry about all the things that go with these things that the commissioner should be worried about. We have the most affordable game in the world by far compared to other sports, compared to anything else. It's remarkable. But we have to be protective of that. Up in Minneapolis and Minnesota, they're trying to build a new stadium, and once this contract was announced this week, the members of the state legislature said they're not going to commit public funds to contribute, quote unquote, to this insanity. Well, you know, I have to ask you guys, how would you feel if you were the commissioner and put in that position? So these things have very deep reaches, and obviously, this is my job is to reform the system, and the system will be reformed. As I said yesterday, I will tell you, and I know you guys have been hearing that, but you will see in the coming months, not long now, that there will be a reforming of the system that will allow the Clevelands and the Cincinnatis and others of the world to be competitive. You know, people will tell you, oh, it's always been like this. No, it hasn't. The fact of the matter is, in the days when the Yankees won 19 out of 22 years, they did it because of the brilliance of their general manager, and you'd be surprised at the lack of disparity. And in a National League, as I said during the Senate hearings, sometimes at night when I can't sleep, which I'm unfortunately now is almost every night, I'll go and I'll, just because I am a fan, and I remember, I'll start ticking off to myself the clubs that won. For instance, let me give you a for instance. In the 50s, in 57 and 8, you had the Milwaukee Braves. In 59, the Dodgers won. But in 60, the Pittsburgh Pirates won. In 61, the Cincinnati Reds won. In 62, the San Francisco Giants won. And I go on and on and on. You get my point. The fact is that it mattered only what kind of management and what kind of skills, not the size of your market. That's critical that we get back to that.
We have the Commissioner of Baseball on our phone lines, our hotline right now, Mr. Bud Selig. Commissioner, do you think you can get it done? Because a lot of people are predicting at the end of this upcoming baseball season, the contract is up and there'll be a work stoppage. Are you afraid of that?
Well, I think I can get it done because I know the system has to be reformed. We just can't go on this way. I think the events of this week, if nothing else, have proved that. Now, having said that, I hear all this gloom and doom about the work stoppage. I've been through 8 of them in my lifetime, and they have really been painful. In the last one, I was unfortunate enough to be the acting commissioner, so my timing wasn't very good. Having said that, I would hope that both parties have learned that, you know, we just can't keep having work stoppages. That's not the way to solve our problems. We do have a problem, though, and you know, the difference this time, as opposed to any other time in my baseball career, the public knows we have a problem. We're not fooling anybody. There isn't. This is not something that we can say, well, you know, it's not that bad, or either us or the Players Association can say it's bad, and there's no sense kidding one another. It's bad, and it's very bad, and it needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you can, is revenue sharing the way to go?
Well, there's a lot of ways to go, actually, and we'll get into that. Yes, clearly, any league to be successful in this day and age needs to share a lot of revenue, no question. But we need a lot of other things as well. The problem is it's so badly broken that it needs a lot of different solutions.
How do you get Steinbrenner to share that revenue?
Well, you know, they told me that 8 or 9 years ago, we didn't share any revenue. The American League had a 20% gate share, but you were really just transferring a lot of money back and forth. But it was better. The National League had no revenue sharing, and in fact had the same plan that they had back in what I call the Ebbets Field Polo Grounds days, which means back in the 40s. This year, we will send $155 million from the top 6 clubs to the bottom 6. Now, you can ask me, is that enough? No, it is not enough. But is it better than what we did 8 years ago? Yes. We're moving in the right direction. We just got to move quickly. Everybody said we couldn't move the big market clubs in, and we did, and I have every confidence we will now.
Yeah, because, and we're talking with Commissioner of Baseball Bud Selig, Bud, it was really painful here to watch a homegrown product like Manny Ramirez as a fan leave this town because Boston could offer more money. It was that simple. It's really painful, and some fans can't understand it.
I know that. I understand that. Believe me, I understand that.
But let me ask you this question. 22% of the players, I'm reading an article here, are making 70% of the money.
That's right.
Is that your problem, or is that a union problem?
Oh, I think it's more their problem than our problem.
Okay.
Yes, I do, but I think it's both sides' problem. But I think it's clearly more of the union.
Is there a solution to that? I mean, what do you do there? I mean, that's like 5 players on every team that are making 70% of money.
Right, and that's not healthy for the game either, frankly. But that's, as I say, when I say the system is flawed, I really am not kidding. It is badly, badly flawed.
But let me ask you this question. A-Rod, a caller brought this up. I mean, it's sort of it's hypothetical and sort of way off the wall, but A-Rod in his contract in 7 years gets $1 more than the highest paid player.
Right.
What if 4 or 5 players were to have that in their contract? How would you solve that? Or is
those are the kind of things that we need not to have in contracts, frankly, but that's something that I need to talk to the clubs about. I mean, it's very, very difficult. It's one thing, to sign a contract and then want to be guaranteed that there are not many people in life that can go through life like that. That's those are just frankly very those are the type of contracts that concern me.
Commissioner, do we have to downsize teams, or can we survive with the amount of teams we have now?
Well, I don't know that. The problem is so serious that I have said publicly, and I would say to you guys today, that all options are on the table. I would have said about contraction a year ago, I don't even want to think about it. I'm not telling you I'm for it today, but I also wouldn't tell you that it isn't an option that we will consider, because it is.
Commissioner, when do you think some adjustments will be made? Do you think you could get it done before the end of this upcoming baseball?
Absolutely, yes. What I have been telling people, and I would tell you guys, in the coming months, and I don't mean years, I mean months.
You think it could happen that fast?
I do.
And give us some idea. I mean,
I do. In terms of our own internal, I'm not speaking of the labor contract now. I'm speaking of our own internal arrangements.
Does the labor contract worry you also?
Well, until it's done, I mean, obviously, look, we've had a very difficult relationship with these folks for 35 years. The relationship is better today than it's ever been. I give Paul Beeston credit for that, and Rob Manfred of our labor department, Don Fear, and Gene Orza. But I can't tell you how that's all going to play out. But at least the relationship is not what it's been in the past. Do
they have to bend for this whole thing to come together for you?
No. Look, I think that the disparity problem is everybody's problem. Let me suggest to you that I used to give a speech when I was president of the Brewers for many years, and I make it to the clubs at every single meeting. Larry Dolan hears this on a regular basis. My job and our job is to restore hope and faith in as many markets as possible. That's what a fan has on April 3rd, opening day of every year. And if you've taken hope and faith away, you have no sport. And so I don't really think this is the commissioner's problem. This is everybody's problem that's associated with the game.
Commissioner, just a couple last questions. I'll let you go. We know you're a busy man, but when you took this job, I know you took it for the love of baseball. I've heard it and read it and many times. Are you kind of disappointed now that you took the job? I mean, is there light at the end?
No. I'm really not. It's very difficult. But I knew it would be. After all, I'd been around a long time and had done it myself for the last 7 or 8 years. In fact, I've heard from all the other commissioners this week who just called, I think, to make sure that I was okay. But no, I'm not disappointed I took it. Look, the system's got to be changed, and whatever it takes to change the systems, it's going to have to be done.
If the big owners don't want to change it in the big markets, what happens then?
Well, I've said before that I have the votes really to make sincere and significant systemic changes, so I'm not really too concerned about that. I'm used to getting 30-0 votes, but if it has to be a little less than that, then so be it.
Yeah, I mean, players are getting now more money than franchises are worth.
That's true. That's absolutely right.
Well,
I must say the Rodriguez signing has really set off a tidal wave everywhere. And one thing about it, and including your station, which I do listen to a lot over here in Milwaukee, I have to tell you guys, just listening to talk shows all over the country the last 3 or 4 days, I get the drift quickly.
Yeah. Couldn't there be a day where the commissioner yourself can put out clauses that cannot be in contracts, like $1 more?
Well, that's pretty tough. It's pretty tough when it's governed by the collective bargain agreement.
Right.
But there is a lot I can do, and as I said, sometime very soon I am about to start.
Can the money keep going up, Commissioner?
No, not in my opinion.
Okay.
No, there's nothing to justify that. Believe me when I tell you there are no economics to justify that.
So somebody that got the big money this year might be an awful lucky guy.
Well, but I'm telling you that when you read some of these contracts and you study the financial statements, you just scratch your head.
Oh! Somebody wanted me to ask, Commissioner, are all these huge contracts insured by an insurance company?
Well, it depends on the player and whether you can get insurance. Insurance get very tough to get.
Is it really?
Yeah, very tough to get.
Would A-Rods be insured?
I don't know that. I haven't asked the Texas club.
But all that money's guaranteed, right?
It certainly is guaranteed.
So if he breaks a leg, God forbid, that he gets that money.
You got it.
Okay. Commissioner, good luck to you.
Thank you very much, guys. I enjoyed it, and let's do it again.
And every baseball fan listening is praying that you succeed because,
I appreciate that, but I can guarantee you that we will.
Because we had a travesty here in Cleveland.
I know that, and I'm very sensitive about it, too.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.